Welcome to the MadHouse podcast, a safe place where we discuss the things that have been on our mind. So sit back, relax, as we dive deep down into the rabbit hole to see how far it goes.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the MadHouse podcast. We're glad that you guys could join us again for the week. How you feeling this week, man?
Feeling good. So I had a couple of days off last week because the kids were with the mom, and I have a couple of days today. I'm like, it's been feeling good. So I'm having some time to myself. I enjoy that time.
Being productive?
I'm bit
There you go.
productive. You know what? I said to myself, I want to make a whole bunch of changes. Now, I've seen more of a positive light in myself, and I think that's good. Like, I feel more energized and more positive. So I feel like I'm good going forward. What about yourself?
I'm feeling good, man. So, his mom has, she's been a little bit more active over the last week or so she had him a little bit more, which I'm not always on board with. I understand it, but, I love him, so I want to spend my time with him, and I be missing him, so, when I'm not with him, I'm just missing him, but I made it productive when I don't have him, because, I'm going to the gym twice, I'm getting all my meals down, I got my beard trimmed, so I feel like I'm looking real snazzy and sexy and stuff like that. Plus, I feel like I'm making some gains, so, but it's been really, really good, so, but let's get into the topic, man. What are we talking about today?
So, relating to kids, right? So, this is something I have been fighting with and struggling with, and I remember, and I had to remember Pops. I always gotta bring Pops into it. I still remember to this day, it's so many nuggets that Pops gives me.
They
that
dropped on you.
I remember so many nuggets, and one of them was, I don't care, and he might have said it a couple of times. I don't know if he rehearsed this, but I always remember he said, "I don't care if you want to be a janitor or a lawyer or whatever." He's like, but if you decide, I'm going to support you no matter what. He's like, if you want to be a trash man, be the best trash man there is. Yeah. And I always felt that support. And I think that's all it took for me, for my dad, because I always felt that no matter what avenue I went down or what choice I made, I feel like he was never judgmental. He always said, I'm going to let you drive your lane. If you need help, I'm going to give you guidance. But you know what? I'm not gonna
I'm sorry. Hold on. Stop right there real quick. Projection.
Yeah.
Holy
projection.
Oh my. Okay.
Projecting. Yes.
Goodness gracious! We literally started this show. We did our little pre-production kind of thing, and we sat here for 15 minutes trying to think of the word to sum this show up. It is projection. Projecting onto your kids. Oh my! It has been bothering me so much, and even as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. Because we were going to call it imprint, but I was like, that's not the word.
Yeah, it was projection.
Projection. It's been bothering me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I don't ever think he never really projected himself onto me. We got to throw that word.
And now we got to use it.
We got to use it now. Right? But that's something I had to kind of take inventory of, because I was doing the opposite with my son. And I realized that I was trying to mold him into a version of him that I wanted him to be versus who he is. Because like I said, I raised my kid to be more sensitive and more, how do I want to say it? To be more emotionally vulnerable, right? Via, we give hugs, we give kisses, we have cuddle time where we talk, because I want him to feel like he can come to me, right? Yeah. I want him to be tough, but I want him to feel like it's okay to talk about your emotions, right? I wanted him to be a little more in depth with himself versus hey, you're a guy, shut up, suck it up, and stop crying, and I don't want to hear nothing from you. Yeah, I don't care. So I wanted to do it a little bit different, but I wanted to be a balance. He's gonna be. I want him to grow up and be a man and be tough, but I also want him to say, "Hey, you know what? I can connect with my emotions," because I want him to understand them more than I did. Because one of the problems I think I had as a child, like I said, because like I said, I was sexually assaulted, and there were certain things that happened to me as a kid that I wasn't able to process because I don't think I was emotionally in tune with myself, and that was just a product of, you know, pops and grandpa. They were a little bit more emotionally tough, right? So, and that's kind of how I grew up. So, I wanted to try to do something a little bit different and allow my son to be more emotionally open to talking and discussing things, and so that he doesn't have mental baggage later down the line that he never really processed because he thought he was too scared to come out about it and talk about, Dad, I'm having these problems and these things are how I feel. And you know what? I'm going to talk about them versus I'm not going to say nothing because I don't want anyone to judge me, and I'm going to hold on to those. So I tried to hit it from that aspect, right? But I also found that there's some things about that I didn't like, right? He was sometimes, at times, I felt like a little bit more sensitive than I would want him to be, but I have to realize that it's not a dial where you could say, okay, I want you to be 90% this, 10% that. And I know you last week when we were discussing this to ourselves, you were trying to tell me, hey, yeah, you know, you reminded me that there's certain stages where we at this young stage might teach him how to be more emotional, and then at a later time when he's a little bit older, he can process more. Let him know, hey, now we can learn how to be more tougher. So, but the problem I had was the imprinting. So I need to find that balance. So, like, what do you think about the issue?
I think balance is really, really important. We both have kids, so we both have this idea in our head how we want our child to be. My thought process is I've always wanted the same thing. I want my son to be the very best version of me. So I want to take all the good things about me and project those on him, but I don't want to take any of my I guess negatives or deficiencies. I don't want him to have any of those. But all those things make up who I am. They make up my parenting style. So they dictate how I parent him. And there's that old saying, like, you tend to create the thing that you hate the most. When you put all this emphasis on trying to, I don't want to be a deadbeat dad. I want to do this. I want to do that. And sometimes you let things fall by the wayside in hopes of like never becoming that one thing. I never want to be, you know, an abusive father. I'm going to do this, and this. Sometimes while you won't be physically abusive, you can now be mentally abusive because like you're neglecting certain things and areas that you've committed to not doing it. Like, I will not do this, and then you end up doing it unknowingly or subconsciously because like you're not physically abusive, but now you're not mentally available to your child, or you're not doing the things that you should be doing. And as a parent, it's hard, like trying to find that balance, because I want my son to have the best parts of me, but I have to understand that like everything that I am, the good and the bad, he'll get both of those. I'm an emotional person. I don't want him to be emotional, but because that's the way that I am, he will get some of that from me. And I can't, like I said, it's like children like a cup. Everybody's pouring a little bit in to kind of make them who they are, and you can't be like, okay, well, take the good and then don't take that bad. Like, you just pour it, and then they will have to decide how they're going to process everything that you give them, and kind of how they want to like apply it, how they don't want to apply it. And we just it's hard not to get caught up in like, I want them to be this way, but I don't want them to be this way. But remember, like, just because you've made that determination of like, I don't want them to be sensitive, they still have mama putting in the cup, daddy putting in the cup, grandma, grandpa, brother, sister, cousins, friends. It's like everything is going into this cup, so you don't get to dictate how the child will turn out. And I understand the pitfalls of it, and kind of how it's like this balance and trying to find it, and how it can be frustrating. So, you know, as we were talking about this last week, like, I definitely understood your frustration and where you were coming from, and kind of like the thing that you were getting at. The biggest thing that I guess I wanted to kind of like make sure that you understood was like the effect that it has on that mental portion of it, because as children, they have a level of comprehension that they understand it like this. It's very black and white. It's like, it's either this or that. So they don't have those small intricacies and nuances that we can understand as adults. They only understand things from a very basic standpoint, and I just don't want to get caught up in like, you know, trying to be like, it's good, it's got to be like this, but don't be like this, but be like this, but you know, be like this, and like, I don't. So do you want me to be sensitive or not? Like, be sensitive, but don't be sensitive, and like, well, I don't understand when to use it and when not to use it, and like, I think that's where me and you were kind of like, I don't want to say get into, but that's what we were really discussing, because you want him to be sensitive here, but not here, and you know, like I said, it's not like a dial that you could turn on and off.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for kids to navigate, because as adults, we know how to navigate that. Where it's like, I know, okay, this is a situation where you can be sensitive. This is a situation where I need to be stoic. But kids don't necessarily know how to process or navigate those lanes. And I think, kind of taking a little bit back here, before we get into the mental part, which I think this was leading to that also. I think that for anybody who doesn't really kind of get it, I think a prime example would be, like a more exaggerated example would be like the kids of celebrities. So a lot of times, so like you might say have like LeBron and have his son. And then you have to think about the pressures for those children, right? Yeah. Because LeBron might not tell his son, I want you to be a basketball player, but as a basketball player, he might want to play with his kid and give him some of the joys that he finds in his career, in his life.
Because that's his hobby.
Because that's his hobby, and that's what he likes to do. That's what he made his career out of. And he might start projecting that onto his child. And then as a child, he might say, you know, because LeBron still plays basketball, but the reality is, and this is where I'm going to transition into the mental, because the reality is that maybe he will, maybe he won't, but the reality, LeBron's son might not be as good as LeBron will ever be, because that was LeBron. Like, that's the reality. You have a lot of people who play sports, and a lot of people have kids, but the reality is there aren't many Michael Jordans, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. Like there's not. These aren't like natural born. Yeah. Like I mean like these aren't born like through like well, my father was LeBron James, so I'm gonna be the second. Like, that's not how that works. These are things that are developed through hard work, like the determination, like growing up with a passion for that. Like, and then there's one in a million. So mentally, it can be very hard, especially when I'm saying like on our level where it's like we're just like we're not really known in the spotlight. It's one thing, but then you also have to look at there's different levels to where like as a child, as the LeBron child, people are looking to you to be like, oh, we want you to do this, and mentally this is taxing. So think about how that would mentally be taxing on, say, LeBron's son, who everyone's expecting him to be like his dad, and when he doesn't hit those marks, now he's mentally scarred. He has a heavy weight on himself, right? And it's the same for our kids as well, even those who aren't in the spotlight. When you have people who are like successful lawyers, businessmen, my dad, like my dad was in the military, he loved it. Yeah. I want to be like him, and I want to do these things and find success in the military. Or my dad was a firefighter, and he was finding success in that, and I want to carry on that legacy. When we project those things, mentally, it can do something to the kids if they don't hit those marks that we hit. And I think that we have to do better as parents to nurture and let them know that you don't have to necessarily follow my path, but if you want to, I will support you. But this is something that you will have to decide on your own. And if my path is what you see and you want to emulate, that is fine. Just know that there is room for deviation into finding yourself, because as children, they're just seeing us as examples until they grow up and see more of the world and to realize I was in my bubble when I was just with dad, and now I'm in college and there's so many other things I never saw, and this is crazy.
And I think there are different levels, and like I think you touched on it a little bit, you know, like there's that upper echelon celebrity level, but even like from just being a regular guy, just from our standpoint, like, you know, we have children, and we compare our children to us based off of what we now know. So you know.
True,
and we have to understand.
On hindsight.
Yeah, like, because we're here now, so we're looking back and like, well, this is the way that I was when I was a kid. But we always have to remember that, like, times are different. Like, the way we grew up is different than the way our children are now growing up. But children will still have that pressure, you know, like, but it's mainly because, like, of the things that we build. Because you may say this, you know, back when I was growing up, things were like this, or when I was your age, I was doing this. Like, we have to be very careful of saying those kind of things to kids, because remembering things are different from back then and now. Like, I can be very energetic. I've always been told, like, I'm a real funny person. Maybe Jaco's not like that. Maybe he's different. Like, maybe he's a little bit more quiet than I was. But, like, even family will look at him and be like, man, you know, Jaco's kind of quiet. You know, when you was a kid, you used to be real happy, energetic, all the X, Y, and Z. And, like, they're now basing how he acts now off of how I acted. And not to say that builds, like, a pressure for him to, like, hey, you better be funny because, you know, hey, your dad was really, really funny. But, like, he's got his own thing. Like, he's making his own path. Like, the way he is, he'll try to emulate me. And, like, maybe there's certain things that, like, he likes that I like. Like, I like to lift weights. So I'm going to try to, like, push him into lifting weights and, like, physical fitness and things like that. But I have to understand that, like, he may not like it the way that I like it, or he may want to do something different. I like lifting weights. He may, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but he may want to do CrossFit. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But, like, but still, like, you know, something like that. But, like, I always have thought to myself, I was like, you know what? And I think I've said this to you before, like, I'm looking forward to the day, but I'm also not looking forward to the day when my son looks at me and says, you know, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. Because in that moment, I'm going to have to, you know, I'm going to have to drop the hammer on him and, like, be real with him. Like, no, son, I don't want you to be like Daddy when you grow up. Be better than me.
Yeah.
Like, in his mind, I'm like the superhero, and, like, there is no better. Like, I want to be like Dad when I grow up. But the reality is, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be better than me. Like, take whatever you think that it is that I've done and make it better. Don't be like me. Be better than I am. And, like, you know, as it gets older, I think he'll understand it a little bit more, because as he grows, he'll see my faults and he'll see the things that he wants to do differently. But I want my son to be the better version of me. It's like, take all my bad and correct it, or limit it, or minimize it, whatever, and then take all my good and exemplify it and just be better. And, you know, kids face pressure from, like, social norms and things like that, but I think we need to kind of keep in check the pressures that we put on them, comparing them to how they are now to where we were at their age.
And I think an important thing to remember, and the reason I brought up the example of, like, celebrities, because, like I said, there's different levels, and we have to understand that kids now are feeling it, in my opinion, way more than we are.
Yeah.
Because it's more mentally taxing. Because what do we have now that kids I mean, what do they have now that we didn't have?
All this technology and everything.
Social media.
Yeah.
Social media. Like, I remember commercials and stuff, and it used to be something that if you have to dress like this, you had to look like this, you had to drive this.
So they're finding more places to get pressure from.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, you kind of that was kind of a thing. But now it's like
just TV. Like, if it was on TV, that's what I want to emulate. I want to be like the person in the music video. Now it's like
it's everywhere. Like, social media, I think, is really, it's one of those things where, like,
it has good and bad.
Yeah, and it's like, for children, I think we have to be also aware of how much access we give our kids.
Yes.
I do not give my children access to social media sites, and I'm in this is a problem I've dealt with now, because Jaden's asked me a couple times, well, can I get a Twitter account and do this? I'm like, no. If you want to say something on Twitter, I have an account. I'll write something for you, but you're not getting access to a Twitter, Instagram.
Everybody's like, man, this dude's talking like he's a 9-year-old girl. Yeah, like, hey, don't worry about what I'm saying.
I've had, she's like, well, I want to message this person this I watch on YouTube. Okay, well, here, you can message, I'll write something for you. It's weird, but we're going to be weird, because I'm not giving you access to those platforms, because it's the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
I cannot. Once you allow that floodgate to open, you can no longer, to me, as a parent, kind of funnel and guide the rails of this life journey, right? Because as a parent, I think you want to guide the rails as much as possible to help navigate a lot of things, so that you can answer a lot of questions. But in the wild west of which is social media, they're going to be exposed to a lot of things that they are not going to understand, and mentally, this is making the kids think they want to grow up faster instead of being kids.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said we have to be careful on how we project, because the things that we say, and then we're trying to build them into this certain way, and then from another direction they're getting from social media all these other things saying you need to be like this, or like, for instance, like, I mean, not to throw shade at anybody, but the bad baby chick who got popular by acting crazy on, was it like I forgot what show.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
But it was basically this chick who got popular for talking crap to her mom, and then started making millions off and got a record deal because being bad.
Yeah.
And I don't want these influences to happen on our kids. So I said there's so many directions that they're getting it from.
Yeah.
We have to, as parents, I believe, lighten that load on how much we imprint and try to put that pressure on our kids to be perfect or be this way, and just let them find, like I said, their own way, because we don't want them to build that resentment or whatever.
And it's a difficult thing to kind of navigate, because, you know, as parents, you have a certain way that you want your child to be, but taking into account, you have to remember it's their life, not yours.
Yeah.
You know, and the more you push, the more likely they are to kind of rebel against you, because like they're building this resentment towards you, because they're like, well, you don't ever let me do what I want to do. This is I want to do this. Like, I like anime, and you're saying I can't watch it, and you're saying it's stupid or whatever it could be. But like, you know, children will start to build that resentment because they have other social norms that they're adhering to. Because remember, when you're a child, all you know is friends, things like that. Well, my friends do this, my friends do that. So like, that's your norm. And now when you're not allowing your child to I don't like you playing that game because of whatever. And they're like, well, you know, my friends play this game. This is how I fit in, blah, blah, blah. Now they're starting to build that resentment towards you because you want them to be like you were when you were a kid. Like, when I was a kid, I used to play outside and I used to do this. And, you know, I had a job and I had a paper route and taking out trash. Like, you know, we have to keep in mind that, like, the effects that it could have on children, trying to compare them to where we were to where they are now. And, you know, just kind of some of the pitfalls of that.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like, to, like, transition out of that into working more on, like I said, taking that back seat to letting them kind of navigate their own lives, so that, like I said, they don't build that resentment, and they feel that they have a freedom of choice that's guided. Like, as a parent, we're gonna ultimately make the harder choices, but we want them to feel like they have some freedom in
some say so.
So like learning to take that back seat and realizing that it's less about us and more about them, and letting them kind of like find their path, and us just kind of like gently nudging them along,
just
right?
Kind of pushing, like, just like I said earlier, I'm really big into lifting weights. So I bought, like, Jacob, for his like first birthday, I bought him like some little dumbbells, and I have him in his room, and he's never really used them. So sometimes I'll go in there and I'll lift him up and stuff, and like he thinks it's a game, so then he'll go over and lift him. He'll make all the noises and stuff, and I want him to use them more. Like, I want him to use them with me, but he doesn't seem like he has an interest in that. So I'm not going to push it on him, because I have to realize that, like, while I'm big into working out, Jacob may want to do other things. Like, he likes running. He may be a track star. He's like a runner. He's a track star. Yeah. So like but that's the type of stuff that he likes, and I'm taking that back seat and realizing, like, okay, well, I like lifting weights, but maybe Jacob's thing is like cardio, and he wants to do more things like that. And, you know, as he gets older, I may have an idea of the things that I want him to do, but I'll present him with different things, and I'm like, hey, son, you know, you can do these things, and then, like, he'll do them, and, like, obviously I want him to do, you know, basketball, football. I want him to do those things. But if he's like, you know, I want to play soccer, or Dad, I want to take dance, I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's not necessarily something that I saw or that I was planning on, but if this is something that you want to do, I'm going to support you in doing it, you know. So you know, but it's that balance. It's just like, you know, doing what's age appropriate and kind of what you feel like, you know, you want to do. But I don't ever want it to get to a point where I'm like, nah, you ain't doing that, because I don't think that that's something that you should be doing. Because remember, this is his life. This isn't mine. Like, we have different interests, and I need to respect that.
So yeah, you mean like not necessarily closing off doors and saying it, like obviously if it's something that's unproductive, like if something that's it's detrimental, cool. But like if he says I want to dance, it might not be your thing, but that's not something that's negatively hurting him. So it's like it's positive, and I think that goes into like one of the next point, like having like setting those guide points, but not necessarily like setting a path. Like when you said like you bought him the weights. You're it's a gentle nudge saying, hey, I'm gonna set this little path. I'm gonna offer a little guidance and say, hey, this is how you do it, and let them take the reins and say, okay, do you want to do it? Okay, I'm gonna back off. So, but let them choose. So it's not like, okay, Jake, I bought you these weights. You need to hit them every day.
Use them now.
To play with them. Like it's 3 o'clock. You're supposed to play with, and it's like then they feel pressure and that resentment. And I think that's a good thing. Like you offer like the little guidance. Say, hey, this is a fun thing to do. Getting in the weights.
These are suggestions. Like he's got a basketball goal. He has weights. Like, you know, I like to do things that are active, but I'm not going to force him to do those things. Like lift these weights, play with this basketball. Like it's just kind of guidance. Like just like you said, just like this is a suggestion. How about you try this? But now there will be times as he gets older, we gonna try this. Like, we gonna do this. If you don't like it, then okay, we won't. You know, you don't have to keep doing it. But if you commit to it, hey, we doing this. If you say I want to be in ballet, damn it. If I gotta go buy all that stuff, the tutu and all this, if I gotta buy so you can work on your plies, we doing this until the end of ballet season or whatever, and then we can move on. But whatever we say we doing it. I don't, you know, I don't care what it is. If you want to dance, if you want to do whatever, we gonna do it, and because if I pay for it, we doing it, and then we can move on after we done with it.
Yeah, so, like you gonna commit. Until this subscription is over. Yeah, and then we can find something else.
I make the financial commitment. You making a time commitment. I don't. There's no negotiating on that. You said that this what you wanted. I made sure you say yes. That's what we gonna do. And I think that kind of like leads into like our last little bit. The importance of supporting them along their journey, and you know. Because remember, we already had our chance to be children. Like, I had my chance to be a child. You had your chance to be a child. I don't look back at my childhood and feel like my mother or my father really, like, pressure me to do anything. Which is sometimes good and sometimes bad, because I don't really think that they're just really nonchalant about everything. So they never really like, oh, you should play sports. They never said anything. They were just like, all right, well. I was like, well, you want me to play sports? They're like, whatever. But, like, you know, I had my chance already. So now all I can do as a parent is present my son with opportunities and support him in those, and, you know, understand that he's on his own little journey. He's trying to find out who he is. He's got his own personality, regardless of how my personality is. You know, I can be a little loud. I can be emotional. You know, I can be very jovial. I like to joke around a lot. That may not be his thing, and I have to understand, like, that's me. He has his own personality that he's kind of forming into, and his own little person he's becoming, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's a getting close. Like I said, we just got to support the journey. And besides the non-negotiables, like to me, like I'm going to support the journey in closing, but I want to let you know, like there's certain non-negotiables, like cleaning up, brushing your teeth. Like there's certain, you know, like picking up after yourself. Like those are certain non-negotiables. Like, but with Dad, this is everybody's journey. Like there's certain key topics where like you're not gonna fall by, like you're not gonna be a slob. Like you're gonna brush your teeth, you're gonna clean up after yourself, because that's just proper etiquette.
Well, let me ask you this. So like you're very artistic. So you like to do artwork, you like to do drawing, you're a creator. So because you're a creator, what are some things that you do, like for your son and your daughter, that you like, not that you want to push on them, but like how do you kind of push them in the direction of like being similar to you, like where you want to be a creator? Well, how are some of the ways that you kind of like support them into like kind of guiding them there?
I'd never actually even like put them onto it. I would just say, oh, you know, Dad used to draw a lot when he was a kid, and they naturally, like Pablo, I noticed naturally picked up, because I noticed he loves to build Legos, works with clay, He loves to he draws all the time like I used to. So I can already tell that naturally he's creative and wants to do like some of the things I want to do. So I see myself coming through to him. So I just support that by buying him more colors, buying him more paper, making sure he has all the supplies that he needs to be creative. That's how I foster that. And my daughter, like she wants to make videos and she likes to draw on her little tablet and stuff. So I can see that they both have some type of creative person in them. Oh my bad. But so like I noticed that I just facilitate what they want financially. And it's worked for me.
Okay. I like that, I think we, as parents, I feel like we both have like I don't want to make it seem like we're perfect, but I think we have an understanding and we have like a balance to where it's like I push you in a certain direction, but then I take my hands off. I'm like, if you go, you go. If you don't go, then fine. I'll support you in whatever direction that you're trying to go. And I think pretty much as parents, that's just pretty much the best we can do. Like I think we're both doing a good job at that.
Yeah, like I feel like we have our pitfalls. I've had my struggles with that. There's certain things I struggle with, and I think that that's just the part of being a parent, that there's no guidebook. It's just we're gonna hit roadblocks and stumble, and that's why we had these conversations. So
because you are who you are, like it's very hard for you to deviate from the person who you are because you've always been you. So like I say that I want my son to have the best parts of me, but if he does something, like I'm emotional and I tried my best not to react, but when he does something that I don't like, sometimes I react first and I'm always going back, I'm like, oh, man. But he sees that, so now, so I'll share this. So he does this thing now. When he does something wrong, he'll acknowledge it. The first thing he does is like, I'm sorry, I love you, and he wants to hug me. Before I've even seen anything that he's done, he's just like, I'm sorry, I love you, and he's trying to hug me, he's pulling me close. I'm like, hey, well, what did you do? Like this morning, like, he comes out the bathroom and he has his towel, he's like, hey, I'm sorry, I love you, and he's like, I'm trying to walk by him, but he's trying to hold my leg and give me a hug. I look and he pulled the damn thing out the wall, like the thing that you hold the towel on, like the little towel. He pulls it out the wall, and I look back at him, I'm just like, he's like, I'm sorry, I love you, I love you, and I'm just like, well, let me have the towel, son. And then I closed the door, and I was like, and then he goes in his room and he plays, and he just like wait for me to open the door, and I was like, it's okay, son, daddy fix it. And then he just goes on about his day, but like, he's looking to me to kind of give him the example of how to be in these situations, and I have to understand that like, he picks up things from me, and he's gonna pick up the good and he's gonna pick up the bad, and that's not me projecting, that's just me being who I am, and that's just my son picking up my behaviors and stuff. But I think that's important to remember. But if you have kids out there, try to do your best to support them. Like they may not be this image of like how you picture them in your head, like, oh, I want my son to be A1 basketball player, I want my son to be tough, hard. But remember, there's so many people pouring different things into these cups that like children will be what they're going to be. Your job as a parent is to support them, is to nourish them, is to be there for them. And as long as you're doing that, I think you're doing a great job. Obviously push your child to be better, but don't do it at the expense of their childhood. And if that's something that you're gonna do, then you accept responsibility as their parent. You do whatever you want to do. But me personally, I want my son to be his own person. That's why I didn't want a junior, because I want him to be his own person. I don't want him to always be like, well, my dad did this, so I got to do this, and we got the same name. Like, no, he's got his own thing. He's gonna be his own person, and that's all I've ever wanted.
Exactly. But it was a good topic.
Yeah.
I think next week we kind of sparked up something we might want to talk about next week. We have to sit on this one, and
I don't know.
We might let this one marinate.
That may be one better.
That might be spicy.
Yeah, maybe best served for another time. But then again, like I said, that's what we do here. We get out these thoughts. So maybe we will talk about that next week. We'll start pre-planning, and we'll do it in our little pre-production meetings. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you ever want to talk, reach out, follow us on Instagram, hit that little button, that little like, subscribe, and hopefully you guys tune in next week. All right.
All right. See y'all next time.
All righty then.
Thanks for tuning in with us today. Hopefully we were able to give you something you can use and take forward into your day. If you you want to reach out to us with any questions, comments, concerns, or even topic requests, links are in the description. Join us back here again next week in the MadHouse. We appreciate you and where you are in your journey in life. And always remember, we're all quite mad here. You'll fit right in.